So today we're covering a topic that is really on the minds of a lot of digital agency owners in particular. How can I ensure that my project managers are best supported, best trained, so that my agency can run and fire on all cylinders? So my guest today is Ben Aston, founder of the Digital Project Manager platform for thought leadership, training, jobs, and more. So he's going to go into all of that, but welcome, Ben. It is such a pleasure to have you on the show today.
No, thanks. Thanks for having me.
So you founded the Digital Project Manager in 2011, right?
Yeah.
What was the inspiration or the impetus that led you to recognize that there was a gap in the market and then actually create a solution for it?
Yeah, well, do you know what? I think back in 2011, I think I had been in the industry for 7 years or so. And I think in that early part of my career, I'd realized that there weren't really any resources online that I could draw from to try and find out how to do my job better. What was the best practice, and what could I learn from other people? I could learn from other people in my agency, but it didn't really feel like I was learning from the wisdom across the board. So I started this project, which really the idea was it started off as an ebook. And then I blogged around it, and then I never finished the ebook, but but the platform, the Digital Project Manager, exists, and it was really based on that idea that I wanted to help people or prevent people from going through that pain that I experienced early on in my career, where having, I guess, imposter syndrome or not feeling like confident in what I was doing. That was the goal, really.
And your background was you started out and became an actual Scrum Master. So you're very, very involved in digital project management and agile methodology and all of that.
Yeah, I think, well, at the beginning of my career, actually, I started in above the line ad agencies. And actually prior to that, I was a developer myself, but I started in account management and then realized that, that kind of technical background that I had actually lent itself quite well to being able to lead teams of people trying to deliver digital projects.
Yeah.
And along the way, I picked up some letters after my name as well. But but really, it's that kind of experience of having a love for technical and having a love for leading teams and making things happen that kind of gets me excited about leading projects in the digital world.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about the platform itself and what it actually offers for the PMs at digital agencies.
Yes, so it's becoming quite a popular platform. So we get more than 250,000 views every month, and people are really interested in the how-to guides that we provide. So each month we're trying to teach people how to do something, whether or not that's how to write a great communication plan, how to kick off meetings properly, how to kick off projects properly, how to create a project plan, and also just beginning to unpick, I think, some of the antagonism between traditional project management and digital agencies. And the reality is the world that we live in the digital agency, we kind of describe it as the digital Wild West, because
that's what it is.
Lots of this traditional project management methodology seems like, hey, that's way too heavy and way too much for a digital agency. So what we try and do is try and show actually that there is a lot of synergy there, and we can learn a lot from the traditional project management approaches. And yes, agile is exciting and everyone's excited about running agile projects, but what we try and do is show actually how some of the traditional PMBOK best practice, Prince 2 best practice, yes, which is traditionally waterfall, but a lot of that we can apply to our projects to help us deliver better, more successful projects.
Right, and it's not just about projects. I mean, that's even that crosses over into retainers and ongoing work that the PMs are overseeing.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's one of the challenges in the agency world is, we're dealing almost with products. Like if you think of a retainer as a product, where, there's a backlog of things that the client wants to, has priorities. They're all priorities. How do we
Right.
manage how do we manage their conflicting priorities and help them, guide them through that process of making the best decisions about what they spend their retainers on,
Right.
so that they get value at the end of it. And I think that's where the kind of agile side of things come into it. It's like, okay, how are we delivering value, and delivering value incrementally, so that we don't just do these huge big projects, but that we're incrementally delivering value to our clients.
Right. And I know, I mean, you touched upon some of the topics and some of the things that you cover, but I know that you actually author and oversee some of the content itself on the site. So can you talk a little bit about the breadth of topics that are available for PMs in the form of the articles and some of the other, you mentioned how-to guides, but specifically maybe with the articles, what's the gamut of the kind of things that people are learning?
Yeah, so we could try and position things across the entire project lifecycle. So from project initiation, project planning, which is a really key part of this. I think there's a lot of mistrust of project planning, especially within an agile world. But project planning is really important, and then managing and controlling projects. So in that middle stage, but where things go wrong all the time, how we deal with it there, and then closing projects as well. So the complete project life cycle. And there's things in there, everything from how to run a project using a hybrid agile waterfall methodology, right through to kind of softer things around leadership. And actually, we just published something on mental health and burnout. So it's anything. It's content really that's applicable for anyone who's leading projects in a digital world, whether or not they're called a project manager or whether or not actually they're just by, the de facto project lead who hasn't got that title. They're the one that kind of picks up the slack. So yeah, it's for people who are managing projects.
Right. It's funny that you touched upon mental health and balance and well-being and things like that. Are you starting to find that that's becoming more of what the audience is actually asking for? Are we talking more about emotional intelligence and those softer things that you're talking about? Because I'm seeing that in my world as well.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, obviously it's vogue right now, but I think also if we kind of think about that progression through our careers, I think at the beginning what you're just focused on trying to get your job done, and it's I guess your Maslow's hierarchy of needs in terms of, hey, I just need to know what I'm supposed to do. And then I think through that process you can get burnt out, and that's why this kind of the
human side.
The human side becomes more important. And actually, we recently ran a webinar on how to run projects with emotional intelligence, and that was massively popular. We got some great feedback on it, and I think people are having this realization that actually it's not just about getting the job done, right, but how we do it is important as well.
Yeah, I love that. So for the agency leaders that are considering sending their PMs to some type of professional development or training, can you share a little bit about the DPM school in particular?
Yeah, so like we've been talking about, we've published a whole bunch of content, but what we kept hearing time and time again was actually people just want to learn, okay, what is the best practice, and to learn it in a short amount of time, and to kind of get upskilled and give them confidence in their ability in the way that they're leading and managing projects. So last year we launched the Digital Project Manager School, and our first course on that is a course called Mastering Digital Project Management, and it's a 7-week course that covers the whole project lifecycle. Like I was saying before, it's right from actually, we talk about methodologies and how we approach agile and waterfall, and this kind of minefield that it seems to be currently with, clients want agile, but does it really work in an agency environment? So we tackle that. We tackle how to kick off projects with clients and your teams. Then we go through the project planning process, creating timelines, estimates, and statements of work. And then we talk about managing and controlling projects and what happens when they go off the rails.
How to get them back on.
How we get them back on, how we approach these difficult conversations. And then finally in week 7, we talk all about project leadership. And really, I think that's the kind of fundamental to what I'm passionate about, which is, leading not just ourselves, but our teams, and being not just project administrators. But I think the role of the project manager, the digital project manager, is changing to be more of a strategic role in steering this ship of the project, which is all about thinking about, okay, how am I delivering value? How am I delivering that for my agency, for my team, obviously the client, but thinking about the end user as well. And so there's a UX focus to this as we think about, okay, what does project leadership mean? And how do I lead myself and my teams through that so that we get to that place where we're delivering projects well?
Right. And I think it's so important to talk about this because I think the role of a digital project manager is one of the most important roles at an agency. I mean, it's almost like a central hub. If you think about it in a restaurant term, it's like the expediter. You have to make sure that, your cooks in the kitchen know exactly what they need to prepare. You need to get that out in a timely manner. You need to make sure that the clients are happy or the customers are happy. It really is such a critical role, and I feel like there is not enough emphasis put on the training, which is why I was super excited, to connect with you and just bring this to more people, because I don't think that a lot of agencies understand how important it is and the fact that there are these resources like yours out there. So, I just appreciate that. And as we're wrapping up, I know you also have a DPM podcast, and I'd love to hear, a little bit more about that. Where can we find it? What kind of things are covered in that?
Yeah, so if you go to the digitalprojectmanager.com, it's just in the primary nav there. And we unpack different things. So we often talk about the articles that we've published. So in the podcast, we kind of get the story behind the story. And I talk to the authors to find out about, what led them to say what they said and try and challenge them a bit to get different perspectives on that. We've also started a video cast recently as well, where we have 2,500 people in our Slack community, and what we try and do is tackle some of the tricky questions that people in the community are asking us. So it's kind of just tackling some of those thorny issues or questions that kind of remain a bit unanswered. We're trying to provide a resource to the community, and this community is growing really fast. We're growing probably like 10% month on month. So our growth is really, really quick. And it's just interesting as more people are becoming, they might not be called digital project managers by job title, but effectively that's what they're doing. And they're looking for guidance on how to do that well. Right. And I think with the pressure on budgets, clients are constantly trying to get things done for less. Yeah. How do we manage projects in that kind of environment while still being, having integrity to ourselves and helping the people around us, I think is really key.
Yeah, well said. So I will definitely post the digitalprojectmanager.com in the show notes. And is the webinar that you mentioned earlier, is that also available online somewhere?
It is online. Yeah. If you go to, we have a YouTube channel and you can check it out on there.
I'll post the link to that YouTube channel as well, because I think that would be a really great resource to add into the show notes as well.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you so much, Ben. I really, really appreciate your time. Very grateful for it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
This episode has been brought to you by Workamajig, the #1 creative agency management software. Show notes at thrive.workamajig.com. Find out how your creative agency can become more productive and more profitable. Schedule your demo at thrive.workamajig.com.